Deep in the marshy stretches of eastern England, the Witham Valley holds a secret older than memory. For millennia, its waters have swallowed swords, spears, and shields, cast in by hands long gone. This wasn't careless littering or the chaos of battle. These weapons were offerings, deliberate gifts to something unseen, a ritual that whispers of Britain's ancient soul. The story begins in the Bronze Age, around 2000 BC, when metal first gleamed in human hands. Across Britain, people took their precious blades and plunged them into rivers, lakes, and bogs. Why would they surrender such valuable tools? Archaeologists believe it was an act of reverence, a way to speak to forces beyond the mortal world. In the Witham Valley, this practice left a treasure trove beneath the silt. Excavations since the 18th century have pulled up hundreds of items: bronze swords, iron spears, even a Viking axe. These finds span centuries, from prehistory to the medieval era. They show a thread of belief that didn't snap with time or conquest. Water, it seems, was sacred to Britain's early inhabitants. Rivers and springs weren't just resources, they were gateways to the divine. The Witham's causeways, ancient wooden paths snaking through the fen, amplify this idea. Weapons cluster near these routes, as if the journey itself was part of the rite. One stunning discovery is a complete IronAge spear, its shaft intact after 2,000 years. Found upright in the mud, it looks placed, not lost, a silent prayer preserved. Another gem is a medieval sword, its blade still sharp despite centuries underwater. These later offerings hint that the old ways lingered, even as new faiths rose. What drove this devotion to water? Some scholars point to its life-giving power, a source of sustenance in a harsh world. Others see a deeper meaning, a belief in spirits or deities dwelling beneath the surface. The act of giving metal might have been a plea, a thanks, or a pact. The Witham Valley wasn't alone in this tradition. Across Britain, from the Thames to the Severn, rivers brim with similar finds. At Bath, the hot springs drew offerings long before Rome built its baths. Coins and trinkets tossed into the steaming water echo the same impulse as the Witham swords. This wasn't a fleeting custom. It endured through upheavals. The Romans came in 43 AD, bringing their gods and their order, yet the practice held firm. At Bath, the Roman temple to Sulis Minerva merged local reverence with imperial flair. Sulis, a native goddess paired with Minerva, shows how the old faith adapted, not vanished. In the Witham, Roman-era weapons joined the prehistoric hall. A bronze dagger, its hilt worn smooth, suggests the conquerors or their subjects joined the ritual. This continuity challenges the idea that Rome erased Britain's spirit. Instead, it blended with it, a dance of cultures beneath the surface. Then came Christianity, sweeping in with Constantine's conversion in the 4th century. You'd expect it to stamp out these pagan acts, but the story twists again. By the medieval period, the Witham Valley sprouted monasteries, 14 in a 10-mile stretch. Each one sits at the end of an ancient causeway, right where the weapons fell. This isn't coincidence, it's connection. The monks didn't destroy the sacred, they built on it, claiming the old power for their new god. A 14th century sword from the Witham proves the point. Cast into the water as churches rose nearby, it bridges a gap between faiths. Historians like Dave Stocker argue this was no accident. The church saw the potency of these places and wove them into its own narrative. Pope Gregory himself urged missionaries to convert, not crush pagan sites. In the Witham, that meant abbeys rising where swords once sank. Water remained the constant, linking Bronze Age offerings to medieval piety. It's as if the river held a memory, one the people couldn't shake. At Lincoln, just north of the Witham, the city's name, Lindum, hints at this legacy. It derives from a Celtic word for pool, tying it to the watery rites below. The cathedral there, perched by the river, crowns this ancient reverence. Its stones rest on a foundation older than Rome, older than Christ. This persistence raises a question. What did water mean to these people? Was it a mirror to the heavens, a threshold to the underworld, or both? In the Bronze Age, barrows hugged riverbanks, their dead laid near the flow. By the Iron Age, causeways crossed the fens, guiding offerings to their resting place. The Romans saw it too, building at Bath to harness the spring's mystique. Their engineers tamed the water, but they couldn't tame its pull. Even today, the Witham yields relics. Amateurs still find axe heads and blades. Each discovery adds a verse to a song sung for thousands of years. This ritual wasn't static, it evolved with the times. A Viking axe, split for skulls, joins Celtic spears, showing newcomers adopted the custom. The medieval shields, too ornate for war, were crafted for the water. Their art, not armor, made to dazzle whatever watched from below. So, what's the secret of this ancient religion? It's not one belief, but a tapestry woven from many threads. Water was the loom, holding together a faith in the unseen. From Bronze Age smiths to medieval monks, it bound them across millennia. The Witham's causeways are more than paths, they're timelines. Each plank and post marks a step in a journey of devotion. The weapons aren't just metal, they're messages. Tossed into the deep, they carried hopes, fears, and promises to the other side. This wasn't a fringe cult, it was widespread, a heartbeat of British life. From Cornwall to the Highlands, water drew the sacred like a magnet. At Flagfen near Peterborough, a timber platform held offerings akin to the Witham's. Its posts, driven into the mire, mirror the causeway's quiet purpose. The Romans called Britain's people barbaric, yet this was sophistication. To give up a sword, a tool of survival, took faith beyond brute strength. Christianity didn't kill it, it borrowed it. The baptismal fonts, the holy wells, even the Lady of the Lake, all echo that ancient splash. Yes, the Lady of the Lake, from Arthur's tale, might be a clue. Excalibur's watery birth could be this ritual, dressed in medieval romance. The legend says she handed Arthur his power, then took it back. It's a story that feels at home in the Witham's muddy embrace. This connection isn't proof of Arthur, but it's a bridge, a real practice. Swords in water became a myth that still grips us. The WithamValley holds no idols or temples, just the river itself. Its power didn't need stone, it flowed through the people. By the 14th century, swords hung in churches, not rivers. Yet the impulse lingered, a ghost of the old ways in a new world. This religion wasn't loud, it was quiet, steady, eternal. It didn't shout from mountaintops, it murmured from the depths. The secret then is resilience, a faith that bent with time. It survived empires, creeds, and centuries carried by water's endless current. Britain's ancient soul didn't fade, it rippled on. The swords in the water are its voice, still speaking if we listen.